She's walking out of reach. I wouldn't put it past her to be obscene.
You're listening to We Patriot Radio on the Fox Full Radio Network. Currently playing Ryan Weaver, December.
She's lost within her mind and dangerous to the blind. Still I haven't seen December. How does she look at me? Are her eyes full of passion and her heart full of you?
Left your left, hey. Left right, your left. You got it.
Truck it up.
Tom Cruise, roll out. You're watching or listening to We Got Your 6 at 6 Patriot Playtime. We the people, the People's Patriot Project.
Looking for a place to put your skill set, your thoughts, and ideas, or want to help continue the mission? You have come to the right place. We are the People's Patriot Project, and we are the shock and awe when it comes to meeting the needs of our veterans and first responders. We are dealing with a new enemy in today's world where the wounds are not always seen. We want you to be a part of this mission in saving lives and making a difference. Welcome to We Got Your 6 at 6 Patriot Playtime. Here's the We P3 team bringing you today's best heroes hits in the boots on the ground organizations that are saving lives. And as always, Patriot Pride.
Left your left, hey. Left right, your left. You got it.
Truck it up.
Evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Welcome to We Got Your 6 at 6. Your You're here with the People's Patriot Project, and we are bringing you our weekly show podcast called We Got Your Six, Patriot Playtime. Every week we bring you a new guest. Many times we have a new artist, and we share all the good and the not always so good things happening in our world. This week we will visit with Jimmy Blackman, leader, author, speaker. Tonight's episode is featured by our sponsors, Bottle Breacher, Mike Wall, Catch 22, Derek Iozio, Operation Texas Strong, Bobby and Peggy Kretzinger, Poem Speak with Stephen Bates, Contagion Effect, Eric Mello, and of course, me. And Brian Kenzer, who is with us and supports EP3 with his business, Smart Living Today, which is about American-made products and a stream to help support the American, take that back, to support the People's Patriot Project while you are shopping. We can also be heard on Reese Across America Radio at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday evenings. You can find the app here, if Jonathan will put that up. And again, thank you to our sponsors, our guests, and viewers. Before starting this week's show, we ask that you take off your hats, stand if you can, and cover your heart and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, there's been a couple people popping in so far.
Boom, here we go, brothers and sisters. It is June 23rd, and we are the People's Patriot Project. And what an amazing guest we have tonight. We have Jimmy Blackman. There's a lot of accolades that come with that name. And if you're not familiar, just for Travis Partington's sake, I don't know if you've had Jimmy Blackman on your show, get him on there, but I know you like to throw your bow around a little bit, but I think this guy might have some skill set in the bow world as being the IBO and the IFAA world champion in archery, which isn't the real reason why we brought him on tonight. I think he goes a lot further. He might be one of the most experienced leaders in the world of military and pulling together organization and individual influence and all that with being a veteran. Thanks for being here, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I don't know if there's anything we can do different, but we're running into that mic issue again. Not a huge thing. We'll get through it. If you can lean into it a little bit, that might help. We'll keep working at it, and it's good. Jonathan, what's in the news, brother?
I have no idea. No.
You have no idea? Okay.
June is National PTSD Awareness Month. In 2014, the Senate would designate month of June as National PTSD Awareness Month. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs were one of the forerunners in the fight against PTSD. PTSD was mentioned as early back as 50 BC in poems written about soldiers returning from war. The National Center for PTSD states that about 7 to 8% of the population will experience PTSD in their lifetime. PTSD Awareness Month is a reminder of the strength of our minds, rather. Our minds have Immense strength, which also have limitations, but learning to recognize those limitations and work around them within our capacity will show just how strong we can be. And we also have the strength to will ourselves to get better on our own. And I've said this every week going over this, but the road to recovery is different for everyone. And just know that even though yours don't look like mine and mine don't look like the next person, we all have a road. It's just how hard are you willing to work to find it? But there is a path to a better life. This upcoming week on the 27th of June is also National PTSD Awareness Day. Use this time to talk to someone close to you that might have your best interest at heart. If you're going through a tough time, try to explain to those people how PTSD can affect you. And so maybe in the future, you'll have someone on your team who can help you in combating PTSD. On this day, way back in 1776, the final draft of the Declaration of Independence was submitted to the United States Congress. And also, in 1939, Congress created the Coast Guard Reserve, which would later become what is today the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And that is the news.
Outstanding. And the conversation in PTSD, and it's part of the mission. We changed our narrative of PTSD. We know that it stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. We've changed that a little bit in our narrative in the fact that we're calling it post-traumatic growth. We are and will grow. The version of us tomorrow will be better than the version of us today. And stay tuned. And I hate that we do that. We might have to do a little change, but our call to action, what we would like you to do as listeners and guests, and reaching out to your brothers and sisters, but it comes in the final thoughts, and we'll get that out there too. Jimmy Blackman, who are you?
Well, I'm just a kid from North Georgia, product of Georgia public education. I grew up a mill village kid. My dad worked a cotton mill his entire life, and quite frankly, that's all I ever debated in high school was which shift I would work. The mill was a foregone conclusion. And my junior year of high school, Army recruiter knocked on our raggedy screen door and said, "Hey, son, how would you like to join the Army?" My dad had been drafted for the Korean War. Went, served, came back, and hung that old Eisenhower jacket in the closet, Corporal Blackman. And when that recruiter said, "How would you like to join the Army?" I saw myself in that I thought, this is an opportunity. And so I told him that day I committed that I would enlist. And, as we were talking, he asked me, he said, "Son, would you like to go to college one day?" And I started laughing at him. I'm like, "My people don't go to college. No way I could afford college." And he said, "There's this thing called the Montgomery GI Bill." And I said, "Sign me up." I had no idea, but sign me up. And it turned out he wasn't kidding. So I was enlisted for almost 6 years, and then commissioned a lieutenant and continued right on. And 30 years later, a lot of water had passed under the bridge. And so the Army for me was an opportunity, a way out. I guess if that's not proof that the American dream is still alive, then I don't know what it is. What is. Only in America could you go from, hourly wage at the cotton mill to ultimately briefing presidents and, commanding almost 5,000, a little over 5,000 soldiers in combat. So
it does seem like, and this doesn't happen for everybody, but it does seem like a rags to riches story. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, but it does happen more than you would think. I used to, as a colonel, love walking around in the field and just go up to junior soldiers, that are a year or less in, and just ask them, why'd you join the Army? You wouldn't believe the things they'll tell you. And I'll never forget, this young kid walked up to me one day, and he didn't know it was me. Walked up behind me and turned around, and he saw it was his brigade commander. And of course, his face was like, "Oh crap, that is not what I wanted to walk into." And I remember I asked him, "Hey man, why'd you join the Army?" He said, "I was in tax trouble." So I mean, you get everything, And but I asked him that day. I was like, "Well, man, a good place. You want my job one day?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, "Why not?" And that opened a door for me to tell my story. I was Private Blackman one day, and I just applied myself. I did good work. I moved up through the ranks. I took opportunities, and now I'm your brigade commander. So why not you? There are no ceilings. No one cares what your mom and dad did for a living. No one cares what your socioeconomic background is, what color your skin is, what gender you are. It's a unique opportunity, and I think there's more of those types of stories than you might imagine out there.
It's exciting to hear, and again, we get all forms of people that come onto the show. We get people that they don't share a value to their service, and it breaks my heart when I hear those stories. We've got some of our listeners that are struggling with their post deployment, their post enlistment, where they sit and where they live. What would you tell people that are struggling with that? Is there anything to say to them?
Well, I mean, I do think that one of the biggest adjustments, especially during the war years, are, young soldiers. Well, let's just say soldiers, period. Sailors, airmen, Marines, all of them. They deploy and they're a part of something important. They're a member of a team, a team that everyone counts on each other for their lives, frankly. But they feel what they're doing has purpose. We're at the tip of our nation's spear, doing important things, fighting for American freedoms, abroad, in combat. And then they go back, they get out, maybe they're medically discharged, they decide to move on, turn another chapter, and they suddenly turn around, team's gone, the support group's gone, and they feel that the work they're doing is not important. And that's a tough pill to swallow. You go from being, making a difference in the world to, I don't feel like I make a difference, and I'm not surrounded by my brothers and sisters that I had a unique connection to because of service. And so that transition's a challenge. I think the most important thing is to find purpose. And to recognize that you have some amazing skills. I don't think we are quite there. And the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Randy George, a good friend of mine, I talked to him just recently, and I told him that that if one thing we could do a little bit better is help those separating service to understand their skill set and how that applies in the business world, because the level of responsibility we put on young kids, and people, other people's lives, that's unparalleled. That's unheard of anywhere else. And so we create responsible folks that are disciplined, and they do things intuitively just because that's who they are now, that you don't see in the business world. And that creates great value for businesses.
So we do have a listener, regular listener. He's been vetted. He wants to have a conversation with you at some time. I don't know if we can work that piece out. I'll give you a little background on Mr. Daniels. He's disabled because of MS. That may have been, and I say may. He's got the paperwork, he's got the processes, he's got the steps, and he's struggling from MS that's related to his exposures over in the Middle East. And so he's been here religiously for many, many, many shows. And we appreciate Jeremy, and we'll have that conversation maybe post show and see if that's a piece. He's got a lot to say, and he does an amazing job putting the information out there. And I don't know that he's being heard. And I don't know, maybe you've got a resource that says, you know what, this is someone that needs to hear this story. But so you and I prepped a little bit for the show, and I said we have 3 segments here, and I'm kind of going off the script already, and that's the way this works, because it's about a conversation, it's about real things, and it's about real life. Because that after the military is real life, let's face it, but at the end of the day, your experiences post deployment and post enlistment it's got to carry on your real. What's Jimmy Blackman's struggles after his service?
Well, I mean, I suffered from PTSD pretty significantly throughout the last. I get the first time I really came face to face with it, no denying what was going on, was my second deployment to Iraq, 2005 and 6. And it's a long story of an event that happened, and I had some of my soldiers blown up, 2 out of 3 killed, and the other one wounded horribly. And right beside me, I mean, it knocked me senseless when the rocket hit right in the middle of us. And that I was taking care of the soldier, got over to the cache to visit with him and everything. And that night had a dream that my youngest daughter drowned. And it's a long dream, very vivid, but bottom line, I found her floating in the water, and we went over a waterfall. And the next night I had that same dream again. And, you wake up and your heart rate's north of 200 and soaking wet sweat. And again. And so after about a week, I mean, I was a zombie. I couldn't hardly function. And finally, the chaplain was a good friend of mine, Ron Thomas, and the division chaplain. I went by to see him, and I said, "Man, we got to talk. I'm hurting here." And told him everything, and he said, "It's perfectly normal in that you feel somewhat in control here in combat. So the stress looks for where you're vulnerable. Where's the weakness? And anything could happen to your family back home right now. There's nothing you can do about it." And so that's where that stress goes. It manifests itself there in an area where you're completely vulnerable and weak. And so, I struggled with it. I mean, I had that dream pretty much every night. I slept on Ambien and what little sleep I could get. And after that deployment, it began to slowly fade, having other dreams, anxiety attacks, and I'd relive a battle, but I couldn't find my weapon. I'd be barefooted. I couldn't find my boots, and I'm in the middle of a fight, or I get left on the LZ and they'd drive away, whatever it might be. Just dreams where I was kind of helpless. And I'd been moved to the Pentagon. I dealt with this off and on, never told anyone about it at all. And I was in the Pentagon in 2015 and 16. And I was the Joint Operational War Plans Division Chief. So read on to every TSSCI program out there. And I finally went in and to talk to the doc, and I said, "Look, is there something you can give me to take the edge off, do something?" And he said, "Not in your job." And he said, with your clearance, have to leave." And I remember kind of flippantly rolling my eyes and said, "What am I supposed to do? Drink a pint of whiskey every night?" And I'll never forget. He looked me right in the eye and he said, "Kind of has the same effect. Boy, it's a kiss of death." And I started drinking that day, and I didn't drink at all, not any. And I went to take the edge off, and it escalated more and more. And I retired right after that, and transition. And then I went on the road, speaking and consulting, and I lived on the road. And I remember I had an anxiety attack deer hunting one day, 20 feet up in a tree, and just panicked. I didn't think I'd ever get out of the tree. I'd kill myself if I tried to get out of here. And so I'd drink more and more and more and more. And I remember one day I started feeling like I was having an anxiety attack, and I needed a drink. And I stopped myself and I said, "Are you having an anxiety attack and need to have a drink, or do you just need an excuse to drink?" And I couldn't answer the question. I did not know the answer to the question. It really kind of woke me up. But I always thought, I'll quit when I want to quit. I got it under control. Well, you're fully in control until you're not in control, and then it's too late. And it got so bad that eventually I was having bourbon for breakfast, and by noon I was totally functional. I did the Leadville 100 mountain bike race, 105 miles at 10 to 12,000 feet above sea level. 10 and a half hour race, and I drank 8 pints of high gravity beers the night prior. I mean, I lived on it and could function. No one even knew I was drinking. And so I decided to quit. I decided I just cold turkey quit. And so I tried that. And within about 4.5, 5 hours, I started shaking my hands and then my whole body, broke out in a sweat, felt my heart racing, checked my blood pressure. I was 145. And I called my brother-in-law, who's a physician. He said, "You need to have a drink right now. Like, you could have a seizure. You can kill yourself." He's like, "You need to go have a drink." And I drank a couple of shots of bourbon, and poof, no sweat, steady as I could be, blood pressure back down to 120/60. And it scared me to death. And I knew I had a bad problem and that I couldn't fix it now. And so I did one of the most humbling things I've ever done in my life. I walked into rehab and went through rehab and got sober. So, it doesn't matter what rank you were, what position you were in. It knows you're a human being. This is something that affects us all. I remember I was talking, John Day Patriot, a good friend of mine. He and I were talking one day. One's exempt, and if it doesn't affect you, you've got other worse problems. So, it means we're human. And as you said at the beginning, everyone deals with it or tries to deal with it differently. Everyone's road is different. Otherwise, it would be an easy cure. We could just treat people and fix them. But everyone, it really manifests itself differently in everyone, and it's managed differently with everyone. But there are tremendous resources out there now. If you want help, you can get help. There's no question. It's there. But you got to, it's a humbling experience, and you got to be willing to admit you got a problem.
So one of the things that we find, and again, we're not here to air your laundry. We're not here to, we're here to learn and grow, and ultimately let's grow on and I think every conversation gives us, a keystone to create that opportunity. What are you bringing in, or what did you bring in pre-enlistment that added to your struggles?
Well, other than a predisposition, it's in my DNA. I mean, my grandfather pickled his liver, cirrhosis of the liver. You got to work at it, man. The liver is resilient. You got to go hard to kill yourself with alcohol, but you can do it. He proved it. My dad was a recovering alcoholic as well. So, that was a part of who I was and what I brought. But I really think the Army was such a good fit for me because I did bring resilience, because I grew up dirt poor. I was a farm kid. I grew up around rough old men in bib overalls that would eat you for breakfast. And so a drill sergeant really didn't bother me at all. I mean, you can't hang with my grandpa, especially if he's drunk. And so, I just had to kind of figure it out. My mom and dad had to work, and I spent a lot of time alone or with other kids. And, I saw it later in my career as a senior commander. Some of our most resilient kids were single parent inner city kids because they had to figure it out. I mean, no one was going to do anything for them. If they were going to survive, if they were going to eat, if they were going to, do whatever, they had to figure it out. And so they were very resilient versus those who had kind of, mom and dad had solved all their problems for them. That was a greater challenge for the younger generation that I commanded later in my career.
It's an intriguing story, intriguing life, and you've done it. It's kind of that Sisyphus conversation where you had to push the big stone up the mountain, and at what point you got to decide if you're going to keep pushing that stone or if you're going to let the stone push you, kind of thing. And everyone stay tuned. We're going to get back here with Mr. Blackman and what his mission is today and where he's going at. Jonathan, we got a song up for tonight?
Yeah. It kind of works out pretty good because I was just the one I was thinking about listening to the conversation was Bury These Burdens, and just so happens to be sung by a man named David Stone. So
David Stone.
Here we go.
You're a soldier, takes a stand, holding it only. It's just a plan, facing your demons, dragging you down. But I'm right here to show you now that you're not alone. A survivor who thinks he's on his own. A different place than the one where you left your home. And these people, well, they don't understand how you feel, but I do. And I'll bury these burdens with you. There's an empty spot inside your soul, holding you back to make it on your own. Saying you're no good with no backbone, but I'm here to stay and to say that you're not alone. A survivor who thinks he's on his own. A different place than the one where you left your home. And these people, well, they don't understand how you feel, but I do. And I'll bury these burdens with you. Man, you're not on your own. Man, just come back home and talk about what this is really all about. 'Cause you're not alone. A survivor who thinks he's on his own. A different place than the one where you left your home. And these people, well, they don't understand how you feel, but I do. And I'll bury, yes, I'll bury, and I'll bury these burdens with you. Yeah, bury these burdens.
That is Mr. Stone with Bury These Burdens. Yeah, do some switching around back again here. What do you do?
Welcome, Andrea.
Hello, thank you. Good Sunday evening to you.
It's hot.
Hi.
Miss Kimmer, did you have a little ditty for us tonight?
I do. It's called Grow. Live your best life yet. Put down that self-inflicted bayonet. Make this day better than the one before. Remember, you're not alone anymore. Believe it or not, but you have a support team. People who believe in your esteem. Get to know us because we are here to help you in your journey, my dear. Think of today as being grand. Listen to your favorite band. Sing and do some bebop, even if it's in the raindrops. Because living life is great, even if we must accommodate. It's okay if your plans don't work out. That's no reason to check out. Living your best life yet? On your mark, get set, grow.
Again, I don't know I've said it enough. Miss Kimmer is such an amazing blessing, and her verbiage and her words put together inspire us. If you haven't had the chance, get out there, find Miss Kimmer, get her books. There's just a ton of inspiration. Her story is more, I don't want to use the word compelling. She's been through it. She's been there. She's done that. And she's surviving. And get out there and check it out. Her books have the story and where she's been and where it hasn't written. The end of the story is not over because the end is far from today, and that it is going to be nothing but just accolades. It's she's done such an amazing job. We appreciate you being on the team, Miss Winter.
Thank you.
You better get. I didn't even see these pop up. I mean, everyone is in love with Miss Gwinner and her stories. You got to get them out there. Absolutely, she's thriving. Mr. Blackman, what are you doing today? What are you getting done? What's the mission, man?
Today, I went to church this morning and now packed this afternoon. I'm headed to Lake Tahoe tomorrow morning early. I'll be out there through Thursday working with a company. So put a couple of extra days on, and I'm taking my wife with me. And so I'm going to work and do some workshops with a global company. And then I'm going to do some walking and eating and working out and enjoying Lake Tahoe.
What's your mission? What are you getting done?
My mission. Yeah, it's interesting. Is that we're focused on defining your purpose and everything. And I really, some words have changed over the years, but I have never really, it's who I am. And I figured it out fairly early enough in life. And that is to inspire others to be the best version of themselves possible. That has manifested itself. And, I was a long distance runner and relatively successful there. And I loved coaching. I loved the feeling of working with someone, seeing them progress, running, continuously better and better and reaching goals. That translated directly in the Army, obviously, training units, building pride and esprit de corps, and seeing people look around and go, dang, look at us, man, we're good. And now I try to do that on my social media outlets. I spend a tremendous amount of time trying to just inspire people through all the things I do on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and then my professional life now, what creates value is I try to inspire people to want to be better, want to be a better version of themselves. And I'm very candid up front that, look, we're not all equally talented and we do not all have the same potential, but every one of us deserves to be the best version of us that we can be.
It's really weird that you say those words, and the fact that that is something that it's what we shout out every weekend, man. It just tomorrow, and it might be a tiny thing. It might be just getting out of bed, but the version of you tomorrow should be a better version of what today. I mean, what philosophical pill are you taking in? What piece of growth are you gaining? And I don't know. I have all these analogies that are coming into my brain right now of what growth could look like and is. And I mean, I know you're a busy man. I want to pick your brain and pick your brain and pick your brain. I want to get in there and see what it looks like a little bit. I don't think we have time for that tonight, and so I'll try not to get too deep into that piece. But what would you tell any struggling organization that has a semi-sound philosophy and is out there to help others, but seems to be not necessarily doing all the things they should be doing?
So, look, I work across all industries. I have manufacturing clients, I have banking and wealth management clients, family businesses, and Fortune 100 companies. And I will tell you, they all have the same problem. It's just a matter of scale. And there are three things that are the most common themes I talk about with companies, large and small, in all industries, and that's alignment, accountability, and communication. So, when companies struggle, generally, we're just not all rowing a line to a common purpose and vision. Where are we trying to go with our business, with our company? Do we all understand what we're trying to achieve, our strategy to get there? And then accountability. Do we hold ourselves accountable to our own standards? And that's all I ever did in the Army. Was I'd tell my soldiers all the time, I'm not asking you to do Herculean acts. I'm asking you to meet our standard every day. Just meet our standard every day. And we will perform well. We will do really well if everyone will just be the best they can. And that takes discipline. That I'll take discipline over talent all day long. And finally, of course, communication, which the larger you get, the more complex the organization, the harder that gets. But even in small organizations, communication is critical. And then if they can't get it, I always have them read Kim Scott's Radical Candor, which is just a fantastic little book, or watch her TED Talk, and then we have a discussion about it. But those are generally, I can tie most dysfunction in an organization back to alignment.
It's again, my brain is going a billion miles an hour right now. I gotta. I don't know. It's like ADHD? I think I gotta figure out a way to control what this brain does. It says, put out there. It's
well, the inverse is really scary, right? Like no thought.
Well, there's no lack of that here, so we'll figure out those pieces. I'm intrigued reading your bio and knowing that you are out there professing growth, and then you have this conversation about it doesn't matter what level of company or business or that you have, and you have three simple strategies? What would you call them?
Characteristics is what I list.
Characteristics.
But yeah.
Alignment, accountability, and communication. What happens if one of these pieces are missing in a business?
Well, we're cross with each other, right? We're not all. I give out when I do my presentations in my workshop. I show the last mission of U.S. Army Ranger School, and it's a bunch of Ranger students in a Zodiac boat, and the coxswain gives commands, and they're supposed to row the thing together. And that briefs well. What happens is he gives the command, the guys on the right row really hard, the ones on the left just kind of drag their oar through the water, and the boat turns left. And then on the next stroke, the guys on the right say, we got to back off. We're going too hard. They back off. Guys on the left say, we got to row harder. They row hard, and the boat turns right. So you just zigzag out through the water, you know. And I'll never forget back when I went to Army Ranger School years and years ago, we're zigzagging out across the Gulf of Mexico. And I remember the Ranger instructor said, gentlemen, it's really simple. All you have to do is give way together. That's everything about alignment, right? If we can get everyone rowing the boat in the same direction, that means you have to communicate vision, strategy, purpose. Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to achieve? How are we measuring ourselves? That's another big one. Organizations that do really well measure themselves, right? That's accountability. They say this is our goal. These are the numbers we're going to achieve. That could be, you know, we're going to increase our listener base. We're gonna raise money for marketing more, right? And so you set goals, and then do you hold yourself accountable? What are the things that have to take place to raise that money? I got to reach out to X amount of contacts. I got to make this many phone calls. It's got to be done but time bound. I mean, it gets down to that blocking and tackling discipline of doing what you say you're going to do that is going to achieve the greater goal, and then holding yourself accountable to those standards and each other. There's self-accountability and there's team accountability as well.
How many projects do you have your fingers on right now?
Crushed from now until I'm through Q2 of 25. I live on the road, except November. November is the whitetail rut in Middle Tennessee.
Yes. Yes.
So that's blocked, but that's my thinking time, right? That's my own kind of reset. But yeah, I mean, and like, you know, the stuff we're talking about here now, I'm currently in the middle of strategic planning with 3 different businesses right now. And we're going through all of this stuff, right? How, you know, clearly defined objectives that are measurable that we'll then hold ourselves accountable to. That's how we move the needle in any business. It doesn't matter how big or small. It's pretty simple stuff at the end of the day. It's just people don't consistently do the things that they know they should be doing. It's the discipline side of it.
Through your bio, I'm getting kind of this feeling that you can take these same concepts, these same strategies, and you can direct them to an individual level as a person. Not all of us are going out there to try to create a Fortune 500 company, but what do you tell the individual on a daily? I mean, do you apply alignment, accountability, and communication to an individual? How does that work?
Well, I would say not necessarily in those terms, but the discipline and the work ethic, the measuring and accountability to yourself. Yes. So you've seen my bio. I've won 3 archery world championships. I made a U.S. world team in cross country. I've written 4 books, co-written 2 albums, had a pretty successful military career, built a business that's been very successful. I'm not a very talented guy. I was not a very fast runner. I did not have fast twitch muscle. God just did not put it in my body, but I was disciplined and I was willing to outwork you. So in January 15th, when it's drizzling rain and 20 degrees out, I know that 90% of the people I'm going to race against in the spring are going to wake up, look outside, and go back to bed. I double the workout those days. And so I was willing to apply discipline and a work ethic to be the best version of me that I could be. I couldn't affect what anyone else did. I couldn't affect their training, their God-given talent. To train and work hard. I didn't make an Olympic team. I didn't make a world champion, podium, but I made a team, and that's what I was never going to win any of those because I just didn't have the closing speed. But the best version of Jimmy was I got to wear the red, white, and blue in Ireland and walk on a field to the national anthem, and man, that don't light your fire than your wood's wet. And Writing books, the whole deal. I mean, I read voraciously. I always loved to write and to read, but there was a lot of work to be done to write books. Same thing with the albums. The same thing with the work doesn't just fall in my lap. I got to go get it. And so it's a disciplined approach to just being the best that you can be, recognizing, like you said, not everyone's going to be, Mr. or Miss America, and not everyone's going to build a Fortune 100 company. So we have to be realistic in our goals and expectations. But man, how far can you go? I don't want to know. I just want to keep moving the needle. And now I'm fighting time. I'm an old man.
There's no finish line for you. This is an adventure that has no end, and that's kind of the piece. Have you had that day where you're like, I can't do it today. I can't get up. I'm done. There's too much. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who says they've never had that day's lying. We all do, but the idea is to minimize those days, and when they do come, try to get a little something done. So I had a rule for myself training running, and that was, I mean, I would wake up some days, and the absolute last thing I wanted to do in life was get up and go run in the cold in the winter. Right? I mean, I just didn't want to do it, and I would have a thing. I would say, you're going to run a mile out, and at a mile, if you feel the same way, you can turn around and come home, and you will have at least run 2 miles. And I never turned around at a mile. I can't tell you one time, and I ran competitively for decades. I mean, 120 miles a week training. I never turned around. Once that I can remember at a mile. After a mile, I was feeling okay, and I went, I can do another mile and a half, and that'll be a 5-mile run. And so I got something out of it because I got up and got out the door. Usually, it's just get moving. Just get moving.
So, I mean, that actually kind of sums up what my next question was going to be, and that's, what do you tell the individual that is going through that moment? And I mean, it seems rational. It seems like, hey, get up and move. It seems rational. Rationale is not always something that fits into people's repertoire for the moment. So what would you tell someone that is having that struggle to get moving forward, and not, I mean, at least laterally?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to make a decision that is enduring, right? Make a decision not just for this morning. So I made 2 decisions a lot, and I made them because I never wanted to have to make that decision again. So I made a decision a long, long time ago that every day, whether I need it or not, I'm going to brush my teeth. Every day. So I don't think about it now. I just brush my teeth, right? I don't get up and say, should I brush my teeth today? I just do it. And the other is, I'm going to exercise today in some way, shape, or form. I'm just going to do it. So I find if you get up and it's a decision to be made, then there's always an out, right? There's an always, I'll just skip today, or I'm not going to do it. But if you've already made the decision, you don't need to even debate it. There's nothing to discuss. Now, you may alter it. Like, I travel all the time. So tomorrow I'll roll into Lake Tahoe. I already told my wife, I'm like, look, we're going to get there about 4:00 in the afternoon to the hotel. We'll check in. We'll change immediately, run down, get a quick lift in, maybe run a mile or 2 on the treadmill, go back up, shower, change. We got dinner, and we can do whatever till whenever. Because Tuesday, same thing. We're going to get up early. We'll go hit the gym, do some. And that I think takes some of the pressure off of just giving yourself an out.
And again, I'm struggling here with this a little bit, in the fact that we've got some of our brothers and sisters that are listening and or are taking, and I'm still always trying to find that motivational piece that gets people just to move forward, just to do something.
But I told you, I'll take discipline over motivation every day.
Sure.
People call me all the time and they want me to come speak to their company. Come motivate my people, right? And we'll start talking about everything, and they'll start asking these questions. They're and it's like they're beating around the bush, and what they really are asking is, man, I'm going to pay you a lot of money. You're going to come motivate my people. Is it going to last? Like, will the motivation last? Right? And I always say, no, but nor does a bath. I recommend you take one every day, right? It's not lasting. You're going to stink tomorrow. You're going to get dirty again. And so you got to take another bath. And so you've got to have a disciplined writing life, this writer's block. Well, most writers that really go at it, they don't have the luxury of having writer's block. It's not a choice. You got to produce. And so you got to just sit down and start writing. And sometimes it's hard and sometimes you struggle, but you just got to do it. You don't have an option. And so it may not be the most eloquent in terms of ideas and inspiration. It may not be the best workout you've ever had, but you got something done. You move the needle, you accomplish it, you move forward a step or two. That's progress, right? That's movement. And I tell you, it kind of will pick up some inertia if you get into the habit, the disciplined habit of just doing it. But if you sit around and wait to be inspired, good luck. I can't remember a lot of those days where I just, woke up just, it descended on me. I'm going to write a masterpiece poem or song, or, it just doesn't happen that way.
And there's a piece that I've said, and everyone's got their setbacks, and I totally get it. If you take 5 steps forward in that during your week, and let's say you take 5 of your days, you're taking a step forward, and in 3 days, unfortunately, you take a step back, that's still progress. And so I think it's important to remember, regardless of your setbacks, I hope you're in a space and place and time that, and if you're not, again, we'll get to the call to action, but if you're not in that, reach out to someone. Just say, you know what, I've got that. And it's a piece, it's really tough. I had a brother one time who, not a military brother, high school friend, who kept telling me about his anxiety attacks. And I'm like, I have no fathomable idea what you're even talking about, because I have never had a panic attack ever. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, brother. But when you have one, reach out to me. And it was a kind of weird psychological, I'm going to call it phenomenon, but after my father passed away, I used to go spelunking. And then for those who don't know the big word of spelunking, that is cave crawling or, exploring. And, there was some places outside of my hometown where we'd climb into these caverns, and like your back has got a rock on it and your chest has got a rock on it, and we're wiggling around in there doing that. I've watched videos today of that stuff, and it takes the wind out of me. I can't do it anymore. I don't know why, but I'm kind of going to the point where my father died, and I had to watch him go through the steps and pull the plug kind of concept thing, and that was, I wouldn't say it was traumatic for me, but it was a moment that I wish I never had to experience. And something in that moment completely changed who I was. And this seems like I'm reaching here, but the point I'm trying to get to is that I finally found a way to relate to my friend about what that anxiety was, what that panic was. And if you're in that space and time, there is nothing wrong with reaching out to a brother or a sister and say, you know what, I'm having this moment, I'm struggling, be with me for a moment. And you know what, if they're not in that space to do that with you, got to find new people to be with. I mean, that's there's the truth. I was just going to ask Mr. Crochet to line up another song, but we got this. We got this. I apologize. We got the curveball. We're here. We are going to run with Mr. Stephen Cochran's When a Hero Falls. And we'll be back to listen to what Mr. Blackman's got to say about what's in the future.
Man said, boys, call home. Tonight's gonna be a long one. And I don't wanna say it, but I will. Some of you may not see home again. 'Cause 8 clicks north, in a village in a valley, where the mullah lays his head. Son, you lead the men and keep them locked and loaded. If that man gets wind you're coming here, surprise you boys instead. But now I know what a hero looks like when he falls. Ron slapped my back, then slipped away. He hit his knees and blessed his family and his team. His God's is all he has to say. When a hero falls. Well, about 3 hours we were down in our positions when I heard Ron's voice on the radio. He was saying, I've got to take another road. Dogs bark too loud, stirring up the night. I've made some decisions, but now I'm praying that they're right. But now I know what a hero sounds like when he calls. No fear for him, just for his men. Voice like a lion, a heart like a lamb, and he'll do the best he can when a hero calls. Yeah, well, shots ring out from the high ground. Grab the rifles and start the jeeps. Got there too late, but just in time to see. Now I know what a hero looks like when he falls and lays his courage on the ground. Knows where he's headed and knows where he's been. Well, it's a moment to behold, and his story must be told when a hero falls. When a hero falls. When a hero falls.
That's Stephen Cochran, When a Hero Falls. That is an amazing story. We have so many guests on. We have so many stories, and I'm falling short That story is about one of his team members, and it breaks my heart that I don't and can't remember his name because of the amount of people that we run into, and I feel absolutely terrible right now. But good friend Stephen Cochran from Nashville. You can say Michigan. I mean, he's Michigan records in Nashville, so. What an inspiring. It's not a. I have a hard time saying it's an inspiring story in the fact that we lost a brother that was dear to them, and it's it's a story that needs to be told. Is that inspiring? Mr. Blackman, what are you working on for the future? What's getting done?
Continuing to build my business. I play around with several different books. I've been playing with a novel for a long time. I don't know if that'll get done in the next year or two or not, but I no, I enjoy what I'm doing, and I found a way to to make a living my purpose and helping people grow and develop and become better. And so I find tremendous contentment in doing what I do. So I don't see anything changing anytime soon. I continue to set goals for myself in terms of, I'll never run as fast as I once ran. I'll never cycle as fast as I once cycled. But I just set new goals. Just continue to try to push myself to personally be fulfilled, but work wise, profession wise, I love what I do, and I enjoy just helping people be better.
What part of Georgia are you from?
I'm originally from Calhoun, Georgia, just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I live outside of Nashville now.
Oh, you do live outside Nashville.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We have regularly made. Do you know Stephen Cochran by chance?
I don't.
Okay. It is crazy that Nashville, the amount of brothers and sisters who are punching out amazing content in the world of music.
Yeah.
Been following our good brother. I'm having a moment. One of my moments. It's here.
Scotty.
Adam.
Adam.
I wanted to say Adam, but Adam Bird is not there. So that's not even, I'm moving on. All right. We got a bunch of brothers and sisters in Nashville that are playing music and are recording music. That's also something that you have dabbled in. Is that a guitar behind you?
It is.
Do you play?
Not good. I just fiddle around.
Chris Turner was the name I was thinking of because I just watched his house get washed out with the torrential rains that just recently happened there in Nashville. You're not good at the guitar, but someone in your world is.
Yeah, I got a good friend, Will Harrison, who had lived in LA and San Francisco and played rock for many years and wound up doing some other stuff and then moved here. And actually I knew him through archery and hunting, and we became really close friends years and years ago. And he had kind of left music. The dude's incredibly talented. He can play anything, and he's got an amazing voice, just power and range. And I grew up singing and acting. My mom sang on the radio for about 14 years. And so I grew up, singing and being in show choir and men's quartet. And I did plays, musicals and stuff. But I destroyed my voice singing. Not that I ever had the talent that Will had, but anyway, I had a music background. And so, and Will knew, he had read pretty much everything I'd write. And I'd send him poems all the time. I'm always writing poetry. And he got stomach cancer and in his 30s, young, and woke up in recovery with staples from his chest down to his pubic bone, and said, "Man, I've left something I love on the table for a long time." And he called me and said, "Hey, you want to write songs together? Let's do an album." So I said, "I thought you'd never ask." And so we began writing music, and wound up, I think we wrote 26 or 27 songs, came out with, decided to put this war stories. He said, you've written 3 books about the military. Let's write an album about it and put those experiences to music. And so we did. And November South is the band, and Will, of course, is the lead vocalist. They're some of the best studio musicians in Nashville and LA that play on these things. The quality of the music is just unbelievable because they are amazing. No one even knows who they are unless you're in the industry. And I mean, they are just some of the finest musicians in the world. It's incredible to see them work. So we put this together, and every song is a real person or event or emotion or feeling that I've experienced or that me and fellow soldiers shared together.
That's the craziest piece about this. And we've come to learn that the music industry is finicky. We'll call it finicky. I mean, I don't know. I still haven't really figured out what it takes to be on the top, the radio playing everywhere, because when you're listening to WP3 radio, the majority, all of everyone, is listenable to the point where it's not even a competition. It's equal to, if not better, than any content that's on the radio, and that's why we're excited to bring you WP3 Radio, because it's those men and women who have done a mission prior to trying to get into the music industry. And it blows my mind how many times we've had the conversation with an artist. Why are you not on mainstream radio? Why are you not on mainstream music world, iHeartRadio? Whatever the mathematical equation of the entire world is absolutely dumb. I mean, we can go back to Topher, which we played one of his songs last week, who, in the midst of, you can't make this stuff up, puts Patriot out, and it just happens that at that time there is an upsiege in our country that is related to politics, and they take him off the charts. It doesn't make sense. And on top of it, do you know who Topher is, by the way?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, he's a black man that sings. He's the rap genre. And he was at the top of the charts. And just because January freaking 6th happened for some people in their life, they take his song Patriot off the charts. That's leading every chart in its genre. Yeah. And he's number 1. And we say, hey, and I'm like, y'all not, you don't have straight minds, man. This well, there's
there are moments out, and we could talk for hours about this. There's a lot more space in pop, rock, rap, contemporary music, to do non-standard things and make it. Country music is a different world, and I don't. What you hear on country radio is not what I classify as country. I like some of the music. It's just, to me, it's pop. But you got to sell your soul to the industry. I mean, they own the radio stations, they own the recording studios, they own the production companies, they own everything, and so they're going to determine what you're going to hear. And I have friends who are songwriters, and they have a formula. And so, as I like to say, I listen to most country music today, and there's no there. The writing is It's got to have, you know, a Miller Lite and a backwards baseball hat and a Ford pickup truck. And I'm like, what are we doing here, man? And so, but you've got incredible music there. I mean, not, you know, Jason Isbell, for example, refused to play the game. You don't hear Jason Isbell on the radio. Jason Isbell is by people like Chris Christopherson, who was one of the greatest writers in history. He said he's the best songwriter in the world right now. And most people say they call him, he's the Chris Christopherson of our generation. And he does global tours and has a cult following. I mean, he sells out within seconds every time he plays any venue in Nashville. I mean, you can't get in to see him. You'll never hear him on the radio because he refuses to sell his soul to Nashville and play the game. And, you know, Tyler Childers, you're starting to hear him a little bit more on radio now, but Tyler's another one that didn't want to do it. You got guys in Austin that just, they're you know, they refuse to do it. Sturgill Simpson, you're not going to hear Sturgill on the radio, and he's got a massive following. So, you know, it's a choice you have to, you know, kind of make. And, you know, Will and I said from the beginning, we're writing songs. You know, there will be content there and meaning and depth, and that's not going to fit that, you know, that's not going to fit what they're putting out in marketing in Nashville. And so just, you know, that's not us.
Well, so, and I don't want to attack the guy because I know where he stands according to his words, but is Cody Johnson, is he a sellout? Or, I mean, because he definitely started as a nobody, and the rodeo industry brought him into the music world. But he seems to be sitting there where he's like, this is my piece. I'm going to do this because it's my people. It's the people that want to listen to me. It's what I want to do. And I'm going to retract my question because I've heard his testimony. So he's big country. He's big country now.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with it. If that's what you want to do, and those are, you know, you're writing stuff that they're willing to put out. You know, Chris Stapleton could write anything and it's going on the radio right now. The rules don't apply when you're him.
Chris is an interesting one in the fact that I remember the year that he won. It wasn't Entertainer of the Year, but it was like the Writer of the Year. And no one even knew who he was. And everyone's like, all of a sudden, who's Chris Stapleton? And now he's everywhere. And
everyone in the music industry knew him because he was writing for him. I mean,
sure.
It's unbelievable how many hits he's written that he didn't sing.
Sure. Absolutely.
Steel drivers. But yeah, I mean, Cody Jinks is one out of
oh, absolutely.
Oh, he's incredible. And
absolutely,
you know, he's not playing the game. And so you're not going to hear him on the radio. But there's just tremendous musicians out there that, you know, you can't judge people by whether they're on the radio or not, because that's an industry in and of itself. And but you look at Spotify numbers and Pandora numbers and, you know, YouTube numbers, and you'll see, I mean, November South we got a plaque here 6 months ago, had over 100,000 subscribers, you know, to the channel. So people apparently like the music pretty well. They're streaming it.
Tonight's show didn't go the way that we normally plan on it going. We've had too many people come in and come out for whatever reasons, and it is what it is. Thank you for being here, Jimmy Blackman. We are going to go to final thoughts and put on, what did you learn? Where do you want to go forward, and what do you want to do kind of concept? Ms. Kimmer, are you ready to roll with your thoughts?
I am. First, I would like to say our pledge, because I forgot it earlier. We know why we get to do this. Thank you to the service members and first responders that have committed their time, sweat, blood, limbs, family, and life to give us the freedoms that have allowed us what we do daily. I think tonight's show was very interesting. I learned a lot from Jimmy. I appreciate what you said. And I made a couple of notes because a couple of things that you said hit home to me personally. And after we get off air, I'm going to jot it down and what I can do to keep myself on track. It's the discipline part that I'm lacking. But thank you. Yeah, you're going to get me back on track. It's been great. I have a follow-up. I like to read My Psychological Chaotic Phenomenon. Pardon me for interrupting how you think a life should be. As I'm headed down this road in my head, I pass along all the familiarity that's collected there. It's a dark and gloomy path, but one I know, made by tracks of others who, like me, are broken. I stroll through isolation, guilt, depression, anger, and fear. Into a deeper, darker hole I go. I'm strangely confronted by the voices I hear. It's a place of freedom I know most won't understand, but I can be me, not who you want or think I should be. I tried to fit in, but it's killing me. The racing thoughts don't separate before my eyes. Push, 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 and brainwash me to your side, and take away what I have come love the most. I'm just a pawn, caught up and swallowed whole by your rules. I've stood in the tears that I have cried, to live or to die. The answer is who is asking and why. I try not to make you ill. Why do you want to make me society well? Have you not been listening? Have you not been watching? For now, I beat myself more. I've tried to please, but fallen to my knees, finding an emotional release in inner peace, knowing the comfort of being my psychologically chaotic phenomenon.
Big sigh. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you. I love you.
Typically we have a number of people that are doing their final thoughts. Mr. Blackman, you got any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, I appreciate that you're getting this message out, and that hopefully you're reaching as many folks as possible that are struggling with things. And since we're playing poetry tonight with I guess that's the second poem. I'm reminded of one, and it was my Longfellow who wrote, "I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where, for so swiftly it flew, the sight, it could not follow its flight. I breathed a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where, for who has sight so keen and strong that it could follow the flight of a song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow still unbroke, and the song, from beginning to end, I found it in the heart of a friend." And what Longfellow's telling us is that from time to time we lose things. Sometimes we find them, sometimes we don't. But when we share a part of who we are with others, we're never lost because we live on within them. And, there's so many things dividing us today. There's so many things tearing us apart, even, from the politics to religion to you name it. There's so many divisive. I think we would all be a lot better off if we spent more time sharing a part of who we are with each other.
And that is literally why we do what we do. And I appreciate you, brother. There's so many thoughts, so many. We got some conflict going on here, and it's not conflict. It's positive. It's growth. It is what it is. I'm covering for the team, and it is where we're at. Next week, we have Daniel Crawford of 23rd Veterans. He chose to walk, I want to say 1,000 miles to bring recognition for veterans, and also go watch the eclipse that happened roughly 3 months ago. We appreciate him. He'll be on next week. Remember, we are constantly trying to make and promote opportunities to expose what our veterans and our first responders are doing. This conversation was about veterans tonight for the most part, but we are promoting and pushing what our first responders are doing, because roughly 72% of those that are serving as first responders have prior service. It makes sense. We are all protecting our communities in our country, and we appreciate that. My part of the final thoughts is we all have a device in our hand. And you know what? We combat the conversation regularly of people coming on and saying, you know what, I do 22 push-ups. And we have people that say, you know what, doing 22 push-ups doesn't do a thing. You know what? Keep your opinions, thoughts, ideas to yourself. It doesn't matter. If someone thinks that they're doing their push-ups and that is what it's doing to promote helping our veterans and first responders, then that's let them do their thing. The other pieces, some people are doing their ruck marches. Some people say, yeah, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. Someone is proactively doing something to try to create a mindset for those that are struggling. We have a device. All of us at this moment right now have the opportunity to make a difference. And what we do in our call to action is we ask you to text a brother and sister and say, hey, I'm just thinking about you. We ask you to do that on a 6-pack. One of those is the challenge. One of those is the one that you left that relationship that might be a little bit sideways. And we get it. Stuff happens. But we're about creating opportunities that make a difference. Be above yourself for a moment. We jokingly say it doesn't have to be an ex-wife or ex-boyfriend or any of that stuff. Reach out to someone that you've struggled in a relationship and saying, you know what? Everyone right now, because I planted that seed, has someone that they're thinking about right now. I challenge you. Make that text. Say, I'm just thinking about you. Sorry, not sorry. I hope it encourages a relationship. I hope it encourages a conversation. We're excited. Keep the mission going forward. Tomorrow at 4:30, we will be back here again to share what the People's Patriot Project is doing to help serve communities and country, what they're doing to help promote veterans and first responders. Mr. Blackman, thank you so much for being on there tonight. If you've got time, please hang on until after the song that you created for a little post-show conversation, collaboration, see what we can do to work together. I do want to say that Jonathan's got your stuff lined up. We're ready to roll. We have Warriors by November South. We'll see you next weekend. Patriot Pride.
Rolls and a hero passes by, another one's gone to the other side. Brothers and sisters who gave it their all, they said send me when America called, and most of them died in a faraway land, charged up a hill to the beat of a band that played, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, and God bless America. The price tag of freedom will never die, and I thank God for the warriors with fire in their eyes. they lived honor their names. War cost blood and trillions. Well, at least that's what they say. Real men and women with a price to pay. Their voices are now quiet, but they still live on in the hearts of the living in this little song that played beautiful for spacious skies. And God bless America. The price tag of freedom will never die. And I thank God for the warriors with fire in their spacious skies. And God bless America. The honor guard changes at the tomb of unknowns. Another day's gone, the sun setting low. Then the last rays of light shine down on 6 men. They raised Old Glory once again, once again.